I was in 6th grade. I dated around a lot. My parents never told me I wasn't allowed to date or anything. Actually, my family even asked the preschool kids if they had girlfriends yet. Well, this year I was single for the first start of 6th grade, and then she showed up. Let's call her Lexi. Lexi was from a broken home. She lived with a really overweight mother who worked as a nurse at night, and during the day, she laid in bed like a puddle and forced Lexi to constantly make her food or have food ready for her. Well, we always went to her house because between the feedings and her mother's naps, we could screw around without fear of being caught. We were cleaning the house one day after school because her mother couldn't and threatened to punish Lexi if she didn't do some cleaning. Not sure what she could punish her with. Well, Lexi tossed me a broom, but it bounced off the concrete floor and racked me in the balls. Not too hard, though, but enough to make me kneel down. Now, a bit of background. I have a ball busting fetish for those of you who don't know many kinks. That is where a man gets pleasure from being hit in the testicles. Well, it didn't bother me too much because of that, and Lexi thought it was hilarious. We kind of laughed it off, and she apologized, and we got back to cleaning. Now, Lexi didn't want to lose her virginity this young, but she loved to suck my cock. She tried it once when we were completely alone, and something clicked, where she always wanted to get it out. She would eye my dick like it was the sweetest treat she ever had. Sorry if the age thing bothers you. When I think back to the story, I envision myself and her as adults, so it's not that repulsive for that reason. Kids will be kids. Well, I was lying back on her bed one day while she was down there, and I heard it. Her wail lord of a mother meandering around her bedroom. It surprised me because she never gets up without Lexi's help. Even for the restroom, Lexi has to be her support and walk her to and from the bathroom door. I was so terrified she was coming to check in on us, and I kept sitting up to see. Lexi continually told me to lie down. I told her my fear, and she simply told me to shut up and relax before I got myself in trouble. Trouble? We would get in trouble if we were caught. I lied back down, but soon heard a sound and shut up, expecting to see her at the doorway. There was nothing there. Well, I felt a sharp pain jolt into my system as she had gone down, sucked my balls to her molars, and bit down. It racked my brain. I wasn't ready for it at all, nor did it feel good. I think she just had it, I think she just had it, she just took it too far, and those were my limits at the time. I was really nervous about having her down there, of course, and made sure that on occasions where things got too heated that I would lie back and not move. As time went on, she became a lot more attached to me, always following me and texting me, wanting to see me after school as much as she could. She started asking about my friends, who were all women, but she didn't seem bothered. Fast forward to watching Lothar at her house, as I told her about a funny story with my friends. I was up talking about the girls, and I had said, and Brooke, being the pretty girl, meaning she was not a tomboy like the majority of my friends, I felt Lexi's knees rocking into my balls before I could even finish my thought. This started a downhill slope of her becoming a monster. She started using my balls against me in private. If she couldn't get a shot in, she would simply wrestle with me or hit elsewhere until an opening appeared. She would get her hands down my pants and grab a hold of them, squeeze hard, and ask for oral or other sexual acts. Most of the time, she wanted to do the performing, but she would keep a firm but painless grip on my spuds. Now, I wasn't afraid of her in general. She was mostly the sweet girl I loved, but this darkest side of her in private was driving a stake between us. I would have never used force or laid a hand on her, though I was raised better than that, and I knew I could seriously hurt her if I ever used brute force on her. My breaking point was actually due to my friends. We were all having a good time at the school football game, and I started getting texts. Who are those sluts? Why are you so close to the bitch in the purple? Why does that whore on the left keep smiling at you? I couldn't see her anywhere. Actually, I'm pretty sure she wasn't there because I invited her to go, but she was put her mom in her homes. I still don't know where she was. She had images of me with the girls, though, even though she was sending them to me. I told her that they were all my friends, not sluts. Don't call them sluts. Whatever, I need to talk to you at my house after school Monday. I took my opportunity. I told her I wanted to end things. I was not happy. And she was smothering me. I knew that was coming. She responded, I hope you fucking die. Not hope. I wish you die. Actually, I want to watch. I want to be the one to kill you. She continued to send me death threats all week and asking me stuff like, what I would like to be buried in, if I'd rather be stabbed or beaten, if I thought her mom's truck would be enough to kill me, and sometimes just sent me die, 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 die. And my little flip phone would load 5 or so pages of it at a time. Come Monday, she started attacking in the halls, grabbing my throat and choking me, stabbing her nails into my neck or cutting me with pens deep enough to bleed. I just toughened it all out until later that week I was talking to the girl I mentioned earlier, Brooke. When I suddenly fell asleep, I woke up in the nurse's office, but I wasn't in any pain. Apparently, Lexi ran down the hall and kicked me full force in the balls, and I was out before my feet left the ground. And when I touched the ground again, I just crumbled like a doll. Brooke had helped me to the office with some help from a guy friend of mine who was nearby. Lexi ran away, but a teacher called her over. She yelled, "Fuck you," and kept going. She was expelled for a week, and my mother finally learned what was happening, and she put a bounty out on Lexi. No one was expelled. No, she was expelled for a week, and my mother finally learned what was happening. She put a bounty out on Lexi. No one took it, but she advertised 100 for anyone who would cause physical damage to Lexi. After a week, me and Brooke began dating, and all hell broke loose. Lexi had gone nuts. She kept attacking me more frequently, and I tried to stay near authority figures. After school one day, I was walking Brooke out to my mom's truck, and Lexi came out running down the hall. I know I said I don't hit women, but I didn't want any harm to Brooke. I intercepted Lexi with a shoulder-led tackle and pinned her to the wall so Brooke could run. Lexi scratched me and kneed me until she slipped free. Then Brooke jumped on her and started flailing and landed some hard hits to Lexi's face. The vice principal intercepted it and expelled Brooke and Lexi for 1 week. Brooke got in my mom's truck and we told her about what happened. My mom was pretty pissed, but she was happy Brooke actually used force on the girl and gave her the 100 she was keeping in her purse. After that, my mom campaigned for Lexi to be kept out of her public schools. The school couldn't do that, but what they did was put her in a special ed classes that were adjacent to the school. She would stay in special education until she graduated junior high and high school, so her and I would never be in the same building together. She would eventually get worn down with being in alternate education and having a target painting on her back. She moved off to live with her father, who now had a home of his own and treated her better than her mom. I haven't seen this girl since, and I'm thankful for that. Story 2. So, I know what a Yandere is, and I felt this was the best place to post my story. I'm a 28-year-old male in Australia, but this story takes place about 4 to 5 years ago. I was living in an apartment in Brisbane with a normal, boring job at Big W. I was always walking around and asking people if they need help. There's this girl who came in a lot over the time I worked there. She'd come in a lot and buy a lot of new realist books. I never talked to her, but it was hard not to notice. She was about 6'1". She wore super bright clothing. Her hair was a dark brown and was always in a ponytail. I thought she was gorgeous. One day while I was walking about, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to see the girl. She smiled. And, with a sweet voice, asked if we had a book called Red Queen. At the time, the book was sold out in the store. I quickly checked to see if it was getting restocked. It was, so I told her to come in about a week. She thanked me before leaving. The order came in a few days later. She came in on the same day. Soon after, she asked for my book recommendations. I'm not much of a reader, but I loved Percy Jackson books when I was younger. So I told her to give it a shot. She brought the book and left. The next day, she came in and told me she loved it. I was glad I was able to help. She ended up telling me her name. I'll be changing the name for privacy, so let's just say Emily. We ended up talking for a bit before she left without buying anything. That confused me, but people did that all the time. They'd look around and leave buying nothing. Emily started coming more frequently, to the point where there wasn't a day at work I wouldn't see her. Eventually, she asked if we could hang out outside of my work, and I agreed. She was lovely to talk to, so we swapped numbers. Emily and I became friends. I'd only text her, and we would agree to meet up sometimes, and And she still came into my work. We'd talk and she'd buy another book, but everything changed soon after. My boss didn't like that I was wasting so much time and not doing my job. I apologized and tell me she seemed somewhat pissed off, but she said she would not come in. So often, one night, one of my friends and I decided to go clubbing. I met a lovely girl called Poppy again. Her actual name, we immediately hit it off, and it didn't take us long to start dating. A few days later, we decided to go on our first date. I texted Emily and I told her I couldn't text Anna. She asked why, and I told her I was going on a date. She seemed to understand. Spoilers, I was wrong. Poppy and me had a fun dinner, and I walked her home. She thanked me before heading inside. I drove to my apartment and went to walk inside. I was about to unlock the door, and when I noticed a box in front of it, the box wasn't big and could easily be held in one hand. I picked it up and walked inside. I went straight to the couch and opened the package. Inside of the box, there was an envelope and a small ponytail of brown hair as well. I ruled it off as one of my friends pranking me and opened the envelope to see what they'd written. Instead, there were photos instead of a note. I felt scared when I saw them. They were all pictures of me, a few from work, others of me doing nothing in particular, like in a coffee shop and that stuff. And then the last picture shocked me even more. It was a picture of me laying in my bed, asleep. My friends barely slept over my house. I turned the photos over to see a message. It read, "I wanted to give you a piece of something important to me," and next to it was a heart. I picked up my phone and called my best friend. He picked up after the second called. "What the hell, man? I was trying to sleep. What do you want?" he asked. "Why did you send me this creepy package?" I asked back. He was confused and he claimed that he had nothing to do with it. I sighed before hanging up and checking the outside of the box for a return address. There wasn't one. That meant someone had to physically go to my door and put it there. I started to get freaked out, so I called the cops. Two of them came about half an hour later. I told them and showed them the box and context of what was inside. They told me I should stay somewhere else for a few nights while they tried to find out who did it. I agreed and called Poppy. I told her what happened, and she agreed to let me stay at her house. I packed my things and drove over. We talked for a bit, and when I got there, we arranged my bed. It was just some sheets and pillows on the couch. I didn't mind. Soon she went to bed. I decided to tell Aunt Emily what happened. I texted her all the details of how creepy it was. She got pissed when I called it creepy, saying things like along the lines of, "I think it was cute and considerate. You should appreciate things more." They took time out of their life to take pics and cut their hair. I thought that was idiotic. A day passed and Emily was demanding I went to hang out with her. I agreed. I said bye to Poppy and went to the park. Emily and I agreed to go. When she arrived, her hair was now a bob and she had a fringe. I complimented her hair. She seemed so happy that I did. I thought of the hair that was sent from memory. It was about the same color. I brushed past that, thinking it was just a coincidence. We continued to hang out. Then Emily said something that made my heart stop. "I wonder how they broke into your apartment." I never told her about the photo that was taken of me sleeping. I laughed it off, saying I didn't know either. I made an excuse to leave and went straight to the police station. I told them what happened. About a day later, they confirmed that the hair's DNA matched up with Emily. They arrested her. I couldn't help but feel bad, but it was for my safety. I got a call soon after, and it was Emily. She was crying and asked why she did it. "Because I love you, and decided to date. And you decided to date that Poppy girl. Why did you replace me? I loved you. I spent so much time on you, you asshole." It soon turned into choked out cries. The phone hung up. Out of nowhere, a few days passed and the police showed up again. They told me what they found at her house. Multiple pictures of me, plans she had been involving, kidnapping, and so many messed up shit. And so much messed up shit. There was even 2 plans to murder Poppy. Apparently from the research, she'd been stalking me for a while. I felt sick in my stomach. I broke up with Poppy and told her everything. I didn't want her getting hurt. She understood. About 2 weeks later, I decided to move. I didn't feel safe in my apartment anymore. That's the end of the story. I haven't heard anything about Emily since, and now whenever I see an anime for something with a yandere, I get scared. I wonder what would happen if Emily decided to do any of her other plans.